3, 2, 1. Hi everybody, and welcome to Project 8 Vector Art. Now, we've saved as SVGs before, but we really haven't explored what makes vectors important. And it's that first letter in SVG. It's scalable. As opposed to normal drawing, where if you draw a line, it is what it is. Vectors, you can pull every single piece of a vector apart. You can resize it, you can copy and duplicate it, and you can do pretty amazing things. I'm going to show you the example in a second. So you want to make a 360 by 360 transparent background in Sketch.io and zoom to fit. I'm going to click over here and do Streamer. For this assignment, please only use Streamer or Line, okay? Go back to 3. And so I'm doing my artwork, right? I'm doing my artwork, I'm making my drawing. What I see a lot of people doing though is if they make a mistake and they don't align, they go to eraser. Don't use the eraser. With the way that vectors work, there's a much better solution, and that's the select tool. So if I grab a select tool and I go to a vector drawing, if my mouse is over the line, you'll notice that it's going to highlight. Because what I can do is I can individually grab each line in a vector drawing, and I can copy and duplicate. Control C, Control V to copy and duplicate. I can shrink, I can resize, I can group, so I can select two. I can copy and paste again. I can move it all around. So if you want to delete something in a vector drawing, if you want to delete something in Sketch.io, just select it and press delete or backspace. And that's going to work. If you want to delete the whole screen, select everything and delete it all. So I'm going to go back to my streamer. And so separate from resizing, which I think is pretty great. So maybe I make my little face like this, right? I've got my little face and I've got all this empty space. What do? I drag, I select, I move to the top, and then I drag. And now it fits the whole screen. That's key idea, right? Vectors are super powerful because you can control every line. The second one, and what we're going to use today for art that we're going to make, is using the fill. So notice by default, the fill is set to 0. If we left click it though, it'll set it to 100%. Now whatever I draw, it's going to fill the shape that I make with that color. Now that's a gradient, but just because I used that fill originally, I can go back to my fill and I can change it to whatever color I want. I can go back and change it. I'm gonna change this to maybe a red. And I wanted to make some red dot, change that again. And I can do some purple on top of that. So I can take each of those and move them around. I can copy paste, paste, Control V, Control V, Control V, making polka dots in vectors. Amazingly easy, right? So if I'm making those polka dots, I can grab each one, I can make it bigger, I can even rotate it. So if you save something in Sketch.io, you can come back and you can control each individual layer. You can even pull it out and shrink it again. You can fully distort and it'll actually show up as high quality. Say I wanted to make a body. Maybe I just take those dots and I make an arm, or I make 2 arms, or I make a hand, right? There is just a lot of control, right? So you can start to pull apart every single image. Anyway, so I think you get the idea about that. Now what I'd like to do is I'm going to create a new image, transparent. I'm going to go full screen and I'm going to jump in and I'm going to create a branch that I'm going to create my mandala design out of. So I'm going to go do that now. If you want to make micro adjustments, you can use the keys, same as Photoshop or as Pixlr. You can make those micro adjustments just to add a little extra space where you need it. And okay, so when you're fully finished with your object, now remember, so I've got everything there. It looks like I've got one extra, so I'll delete that. I'm feeling pretty good about my weirdo vector art. What I can do is make sure that I zoom back out to full. I'm gonna select everything and I am going to scale it up as much as possible. So I'm gonna center it and then try to scale, and then move down and scale. Okay, so once you've made your vector art object, we are ready to save it and then turn it into a vector mandala. How to do that? So you'll probably have a lot of layers here, but the important thing to do before we save is to delete the background. Very important. So what we want to do is click over here to layers. You want to go down. You'll probably have a lot of layers, and you want to click the 3 dots next to background and click delete. Once you've deleted that background, it'll be ready to save, and we'll click export and we'll save as an SVG. So I'm going to go to my Google Drive, my drive, Zero CS Studio. I'm going to create a new folder called 8-vector art. I'm going to go into vector art, and I'm going to name my vector something like weirdo green vector art. Yeah. Or you name it whatever you want. The next important thing is that we're going to create new. We're going to make it 180 by 180 transparent. And then we are going to go up to the clip art. We're going to click load your own image, and you're going to go back to your vector art folder and open up that piece of vector art. So I'm going to grab the select tool. When I select, it will come up here. So it'll give you that little red line to show you when you're in the center. I'm going to actually want to make this a little bit bigger because I want it almost be about halfway. When I have my image selected, I'm going to Control C, copy, Control V, paste. And then I'm going to rotate my image. Try to take it straight down. Notice it'll show me when I'm aligned. So if I wanted to match it up that way, I could do that. I'm going to select both of them, and then I'm going to drag to make it just a little bit bigger and just move, and it'll highlight when you're in the center. Sketch.io is really good for giving you those design insights, letting you know when you're symmetrical, when you're in the center. If you look at the information it's giving you, it gives you a ton of stuff to go on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these, and I'm going to Control C to copy and Control V to paste. Then I'm going to try to rotate. Notice by my mouse, it'll tell you the degree that you're rotating. So I want to rotate 90 to start. And then with the arrows, I'm going to tap back. Remember, I could use my keyboard arrows to adjust perfectly. And that's looking pretty perfect. Notice if I select these layers, right here is my color effects. While this is a little bit different than the color change in Pixlr, it's still all here. I could desaturate if I wanted to make black and white. I could really blow up the color if I take the saturation up. I can play with the tint. So basically, if you want to change the color, feel free. Then when you're ready, you can left click, drag over absolutely everything, Control C, Control V, and we're going to rotate again. Now I think you get the idea. Because you can control the size, if you wanted to make it a little bit smaller, you could. Okay, when you are happy with your image that you've created, remember you can do some kind of crazy stuff here if you wanted to find a different color or a different element to bring back in. You could add a little bit if you want. When you are finished, you want to go over to layers, go down to the bottom, make sure you delete that background, and then we are ready to save. So I'm going to click export. I'm going to click save as an SVG, and then I'm going to name it vector mandala SVG, and I'm going to click save. And then you are finished with your basic vector art. We've got one last visual project before we jump into animation, and I am excited to see what you make. Have a great day. Bye.